Hi, welcome to the Gemara on Chaf Daled Amud Aleph. We're starting immediately following the first Mishnah, the Mishnah that finishes up on Chaf Daled Amud Aleph. So it's just a few lines down from the bottom of the Amud. Hani Gimel Psukim Keneged Mi. These three psukim you have to read, at least three for an aliyah. What do they correspond to? To what do they correspond? Amar Abasi Keneged Torah Nevi'im Uktubim. They correspond to Torah, Nevi'im, and Ktubim, to the three sections of the Tanakh, as we've seen before. V'lo yikra l'matorgaman yoter mipasuk echad, u'benavi gimel psukim. Repeating the Mishnah, you can't read to the translator more than one verse, meaning you have to alternate verses with the translator. U'benavi gimel psukim, and for Navi you can read three psukim and then the translator translates. V'im hayu shloshtan shalosh parshiot koreh echad echad. But if the three are three separate paragraphs, or in this case we'll say three separate topics, then you have to read one, get it translated, read one, get it translated, even in Navi. Kagon, like for example, Ki ko amar Hashem chinam nimkartem. This is one pasuk. Then the next pasuk, Ki ko amar Hashem Elokim Mitzrayim Yeredi mi Berishona. Next pasuk in Yeshayahu. And then a third pasuk in Yeshayahu, also consecutive, V'atam mali ponum Hashem. Three psukim which, according to, they all deal in some way with exile, but the Gemara is assuming these are three slightly different topics. So when you would read these three psukim, even though they were beratzef, even though they were one after the other, since they switched topics, you would have to stop after each one for the translation. Mizalgin beNavi ve'in mizalgin b'Torah. So this quote from the Mishnah, you can skip in Navi but not in Torah. Or Minhi, we have a contradiction. Koreh acharei mot ve'ach ba'asor ve'hakam daleg. The reader can read acharei mot and can read ach ba'asor. These are two different or two sections that are close to one another, but not actually, they don't follow one after the other. So they both come, they're both from, Rashi tells us, they're both the sections that the Kohen Gadol had to read. They're both from Vayikra, but they're not, one is from Vayikra chapter 16 and one is from chapter 23, so they're not exactly from the same place, and the Kohen Gadol would read these on Yom Kippur. Rashi says this here. Koreh Kohen Gadol acharei mot b'Yom Kippurim, Mishnahi b'Masechet Yuma. So this is taught in Masechet Yuma. V'ach b'asor al-chodesh. V'yesh kan dilug de parshat ach b'asor al-chodesh hashvi'i b'parshat Emor el haKohanim. So you're just skipping aliyot. You're skipping sections, and they're not immediately consecutive. So isn't this a contradiction to the idea that you cannot skip when reading Torah? Of course, this isn't a regular Shabbat weekly Torah reading, but it's still someone publicly reading the Torah. Amar Abaye, lo kasha. It's not a problem. Kan bichdei sheyifsok hatorgaman, v'kan bichdei shelo yifsok hatorgaman. In one case, meaning the problematic case that's described in our Mishnah is one in which the translator has to pause. We saw this idea before, that the translator has to pause because you have to roll the scroll. And here, the case of the Kohen Gadol skipping, that's a small skip, so the translator isn't going to have to pause. You're going to be able to roll the scroll to the new place in the time that it takes the translator to translate, and as soon as he's done translating, you'll immediately pick up with the reading. But of course that doesn't make sense, because the Mishnah specifically said that you can't skip at all with Torah. The Ha'ala Katani, but wasn't it taught about this? Midalgin ben Navi ve'in midalgin b'Torah. We specifically learned in the Mishnah you can skip in Navi and not in Torah. It doesn't say anything about the Metorgaman. It just says you can't skip in Torah. The Ad Kama Hu Medaleg, and how much can you skip, meaning in Navi? Ad Kadei Shelo Yifsok HaTorgaman. The Mishnah says, right, this is all part of the Mishnah, you can skip just so much that the translator won't have to pause. Mikal de Torah, klal klal lo. So this teaches us, again, that's all a quote from the Mishnah, teaches us that in the Torah, not at all. Klal klal lo, you cannot skip at all. So we need a new explanation to solve the contradiction brought by the case of the Kohen Gadol. Ella amar Abaye, lo kasha, it's not a problem. Kan b'inyan echad, kan b'shtei inyanot. Here it's talking about one topic, and here it's talking about more than one topic. So in other words, when the Mishnah in Yoma says that you can skip for the reading of the Kohen Gadol, that's because you're staying all within one topic. And when the Mishnah says you can't skip, that's because it involves multiple topics. V'hatanya, and we learned in a Breita, and I mentioned in class, even though V'hatanya almost always means didn't we learn in a Breita, and is a challenge proof, Rashi says here, Hatanya b'nichuta. This is nicely. This is the nice kind of V'hatanya. It's a support rather than a challenge proof. So we learn in a Breita, Midalgin b'Torah b'inyan echad u'b'navi b'shnei inyanim. You can skip in the Torah as long as you're staying within one topic, and in Navi you can skip even if you're switching topics. So this is a Breita that conveniently supports the new reading of our Mishnah. Kan v'kan b'chtei shelo yifso katorgaman. But in both cases, both in the case of Torah and in the case of Navi, you have to make sure that the translator won't have to pause. So the translator not pausing, that applies to both Navi and Torah. But with Navi, you're allowed to skip from one subject to another, and in Torah, you have to stay on topic. Tanya Idach, we have another Tannaitic teaching, another Breita. In Medalgin min Navi l'Navi, you can't skip from one Navi to another. So if you're reading Navi, you have to stay within that Navi. And Rashi explains, Sheyesh kan tiruf yoter midai. There's too much distraction there. It makes people crazy to switch between books. U'b'Navi shel 12 midaleg. But when it comes to the Navi of 12, meaning what we usually call Treyasar, then you can skip. That's all one book, so you can skip around more. As long as you don't skip from the end of the book to the beginning. Rashi defines this as lemafreya, so you'd be reading totally out of order. You can't go from the end to the beginning. You can't read totally out of order, even in Treyasar, even in Navi. Okay, we'll stop there.